So diffuse large B-cell lymphoma is the most common type of non-Hodgkin lymphomas. It is generally considered an aggressive lymphoma, which generally means that the lymphoma cells are fast-growing. Patients generally present with symptoms. If you don't treat the disease, patients generally have poor outcomes. Diffuse large B-cell lymphoma being the most common non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in the United States, there are about 20 to 25,000 cases of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma every year. In Italy, there are about 4 to 5,000 new cases of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. The disease is aggressive, but it is also curable in vast majority of patients. In terms of the epidemiology of the disease, it is slightly more common in males. The incidence of the disease goes up as we get older. So average age at the time of diagnosis is generally late in the 6th decade of life. This disease is more common in patients with European ancestry, so more common in whites, slightly less common in African Americans or black patients. The incidence of the disease is slightly higher in Western Hemisphere, and as you go to the eastern part of the world, the incidence of the disease becomes a little less common. Now, diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, when it presents, majority of patients have advanced stage disease, and the disease generally can involve any organ of the body, but the most common presentation is in lymph nodes. Diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, like most blood cancers or hematological malignancy, is an uncommon disease. The global incidence is generally under 5 cases per million patient population, and the disease is generally more common in individuals at advanced stage. So median time of diagnosis or median age of diagnosis, for example, in the United States, is the late 6th decade of life, or 67 years. So diffuse large B-cell lymphoma treatments have been improving over the years with modern chemoimmunotherapy drugs in patients with advanced stage disease, meaning stage 3 or 4 disease. We expect now that approximately 65 to 70% of patients are cured with first-line treatments. Among patients with early stage disease, meaning stage 1 or 2 disease, the cure rates are even better in the range of mid 70% to 80%. Unfortunately, despite the advances, approximately 20 to 35% of patients, depending on their characteristic and stage of diagnosis, will relapse after receiving frontline therapies.